Okay, I'm trying something new here, so I'm trying to stream at the same time as making my videos. So I'm going to start with part 15 of John, and we're looking for the truthful words of John, and I'm on chapter 10, verse 12 is where I left off at. So what I need to do is pull up a few things here. Need that, need this, and I'm trying to look for, let's see if it pops up here. There. Okay, you can't see it, but I can see the chat now. Okay. Where I left off at is here when we're talking about Jesus talking about who obeys him. He is, uh, we are his rams, and we will hear his voice and will become part of his servants in heaven. Now, this is what I left off with. So the text right off the bat starts out with a bad verse that is not true. No one has taken it away from me. I lay it down. Okay, let me see. Okay. Here, what they're talking about is this ending here. But the thing here is I did not use this verse because this is just not truthful. Because I lay down my life that I may take it up again. Our Creator is going to raise him up from the dead and allow him to walk on earth again. So it is not Jesus going to be able to do this. But to lay down his life does not mean that at all. By the words laying down, you're assuming that you understand the story and that Jesus is going to die on the cross. Well, the thing here is he's doing that to obey our Creator, okay? Because our Creator requested that of him, and he is going to do that. So this is kind of true, but not true, and not really said as well as it is in other places. So if it continues that way, I have to say these words here don't matter either. No one has taken it away from me. What does that mean? I mean, I lay it down, lay it, meaning his body down, so he's calling himself an it. By my own initiative, I have the authority to lay it down, and I have the authority to take it up again. This is a commandment I received from our Father. The word commandment is being used wrong. So a commandment, there's only 12 commandments, not 10. And let me see if I can pull this up. Okay. Somehow that is not working. I guess it is working. I just didn't have it up on the screen here. These are the 12 commandments. Let me get rid of me. And there's the 12 commandments. So let's get back to what we know is the text that I'm working on here. And it's going to be fumbling around this video, but I needed to pull up the chat here to make sure that when things start working out, I have it there for me to see. So I have to look off to another screen. So these words here are not true. The word commandment is being used wrong. I received from my Father. Our Creator is everybody's Father. So what I did need to do is add the green words, the words in green. And what I've done here with this blue word, I'm replacing this blue word with the added word, and then the text becomes easier to read and understand. So what I have is a program that allows me to show you here. This is verse 19, so let me get down to 19 here. Okay, here it was talking about that he can lay his body down. Notice over here the Greek word, and it's going to be used twice, is lay it down. And then these are the English words that are used in the text, in the number in the bracket here tells us how many times that word was used. So to lay it down was used, well, laid aside, I guess, all of these. So, but that's the text here that I'm using, or I use as a shortcut to help me get to certain words. What I want to show you, a rows of division. Here is two different words. It's a rows and a division. Now, I'm not using that word because it's easier just to use the word was, a division. And here I'm using it as a disagreement. So I'm putting this word in and it's better explaining to what the text is actually talking about. So if I come back here, and I tell you that I don't need the word again, so I'm just removing that word. And here, the text has to be his people because he's not talking. This is somebody who's writing this text, so it's his people, not our Jews. There arose the disagreement among his people because of his words. Now, the Jews are those that do not believe in Jesus. So that word has to be used correctly throughout the text. We don't want, I'm trying to control the words to mean the same as throughout the same at all times. Now, has to be among his people because of his words, not these words, his words, which are stated above here about he is the one who is hired, meaning that our Creator sent him. And when the wolves come for the rams, that hired would leave. Where our Father knows me and I know our Father, I will obey him and give my life for my rams. For this reason, our Father loves me. Now, this would have to be a disagreement among his people because they don't understand what Jesus has been doing. Jesus is talking about the word gospel means Jesus teaching his about his kingdom in heaven. So a lot of things that Jesus was saying for the first time was not in the text to begin with. Okay, so they knew he was going to be a king in heaven, but he's explaining it in a parable more or less. So they had this, so it has to be his people because the Jews don't believe he's there to begin with. So that's how that verse is being cleaned up. Many were saying he has a demon. Why should we listen to him? So this story is coming from what he had done above in the last video. And in the last video, yeah, it's right here. Others were saying these are not words from one with a demon, nor can a demon create eyes for a blind. Now, this was the story of the beggar who had his eyes closed. I went through it and showed that the text was referring that he had no eyeballs themselves. He was born with his eyelids closed. And Jesus made mud and rubbed it on his eyes. And that was showing that people that he was like, they would understand that he was creating his eyes like our Creator made us from the mud of the earth as well. So that story is what's going on here. Now, the problem with this verse being here and these people and all these people are around him at this time, I have to go back to the text and I have to show this changing here. And I don't like that. All of a sudden, my text for the chat just went off screen. So I've learned that that can't be out there at all, and I have to really force myself now. So that little thing didn't work. And now I can also make myself smaller in the next video. But what I'm saying here is that when you're seeing this argument take place, the text above it did not have all these people around him. Let's go back and take a look at some of the text here that happened last time. Here's where I'm going to change or add the text. Here it was that I showed the text. I was born without eyes, and this is the blind talking to those that were questioning him. Now, word, and he said to them, so who are them? They asked him again, so who are these that are asking? Boy, I really have to go back here to find out the story, just so I can get to show you that the text. I know it's blind. Okay, so there's people around him that he's telling them that I'm able to see. Okay, now, and I am him that, and they're asking him, the people that he's talking about, or to, those that knew him as this beggar that didn't have any eyeballs, so how can he see now? And then I'm just going to try to go to these here, the cleanup verses. Then he said to them, we know where he made my eyes, and that really isn't specific in the text where, but I'm sure it's almost at Jerusalem. Okay. And here the text when I had it cleaned up. Now I say I was born without eyes for Jesus to teach us. So the text had to go through here and talk about debating whether he is a prophet or not. See, Jesus had not announced himself as a prophet, so this is why I'm saying this is early on in one of his first healings. So the other thing here is but he made eyes for the person who was without eyes. Because I know they take him to the priests, and then he has his parents. See, these are, oh, I didn't know. Maybe I have to go back and correct more of this text that I thought. I thought I did a good job as to who was who for this reason. Okay, so it has to be up here. Okay, here it is. They took him to the scribes, or no, his parents, so it has to be here. No, they summoned his parents there. It was their scribes who asked him. So, okay, now we got the idea here what's going on. Sorry it took 16 minutes to get into that, but I want to make sure. I do these to be uh, word perfect. I don't want um, the text saying 2, 3 things differently, because here I've got the word priest and scribes because it was text above, and they're discussing whether Jesus is a prophet. Now, what happened is when I showed you the text about all them people around there, let's see, okay. Now, this is where I'm going to change it, because the story here, in the main point of what I'm trying to get to, is that then he left them. He left these priests and scribes that were arguing about who is Jew, who healed you, how did he do that? He can't be a prophet. Because I've told you before, these are the Jews, those that don't believe in Jesus. So they were trying to discuss with him, trying to change his mind, but he would not change his mind. And then he says, now I say I was born without eyes for Jesus to teach us. And then he left him. Now, the story picks up that Jesus found him and then told him who he is. But then the text goes down here as if Jesus is now talking to him, but there's a scribe here now with them. So it has to be that here the text has to add that he left with a crowd. Okay, then he left with then he left them. Then he and the crowd. Then he and his crowd that was amazed at what was going on left them. So this text has to be added, because otherwise the story that I knew it was out of place that he had left them, and all of a sudden we have, as I was editing the text, this has to be a scribe's attendant. And then when the story got down here farther, he's telling them, other people, that the story became that there was others around him. And I didn't really catch it until I got through many verses here before I knew that the text here still was talking about the crowd that had been there with him. He created his eyes for the blind. So these people that had now witnessed this beggar, and they knew he was now the beggar that they knew, and this great healing has occurred, which would mean there is a prophet among them. Okay, this is what they were discussing, a prophet. There are only a very few stories that start out with the text saying how the order of things started when Jesus started teaching in the favorable year of our Lord, which means our King. And it was within a year that he did all these things. So we have a few examples here in John of these very beginning stories that has to be said. They don't even know who he is. He's a prophet now. Who is this? What's going on? Jesus was did this, and actually, when the story was asked, because Jesus has followers from the guy that he healed at there's supposed to be a pool of water that stirs, and whoever gets to the water is healed. That's all fake, but the object is that um, Jesus healed a man there, and then the crowd at that time, Jesus confirmed again to him, just like he did here, who he is. And so these people would have been starting to follow him. You have to understand that this has to take place at when our Creator's words are favorable year of our Lord. It starts off from the Passover and the 8 days of celebrating around a house for our Creator. All the tribes there in Jerusalem would have set up like they did when they were um, camping, or when our Creator was traveling or taking them into the Promised Land, that they camped around his tent for meeting with him. So when they kept this tradition, or it's not a tradition, it's a command that our Creator told them to do this. So then when they're all these Passover celebrations that were to take from that time forward, they would have assembled around the tent that was meeting by Shiloh. It was away from Shiloh. Shiloh was the city that the priest would live, and the people would come to offer their offerings. They needed a place to stay, so it was kind of like a small village market city for them. And then they would travel to the tent. But at that time, when they were to go down there, they would all camp around Jerusalem, or the Shiloh, or around the tent, and then later around the house for meeting with our Creator. Now, this means that this story would have happened at this time, and Jesus is more or less traveling among the other people as walking around as they're celebrating, because they're supposed to be there for 8 days celebrating. So they're encamped. They're celebrating. They're sharing this statute that our Creator told them to obey and to do. So when I say that this has to be at Jerusalem, and then you can see that there are people that if Jesus is starting to teach about his command, about his kingdom from heaven is here, and about his kingdom, his gospel. And he had been there previously years before, so people knew he was a well-taught person that understood the scriptures. So these people would have followed with him for when he came down. They'd probably looked for him. And now he's going out, and he's in his favorable year of the Lord, that our Creator is going to do anything he asks him for a favor, such as healing a man who was born without eyeballs. So now that I've got the text in this story, sorry about that. It took a while to get there, but the object here is this is the story here. And since these words popped up so late after I realized that, and I also knew that the story, I had him leaving by himself. So the whole thing here is to kind of go back and correct the last video here, and to put in these words way back here. Then he and his crowd left them. Okay. The change is definitely needed, or needed to be added to be truthful. So now when you see the cleaned up story, it makes sense of what's going on, that Jesus caught up to him again. So there are going to be a little bit more editings here and there and correcting as I go through it, but we got through a few verses, not many, but got through a few here. And I'm trying to keep these to 40 minutes. I will be live, but I'm going to record them, and then I'm going to shut the recording off, do all the editing that I usually don't show, and then I'm going to continue. Now here, these words are, at that time, the Feast of Dedication took place later in Jerusalem. So there is no such thing, okay? There is no such thing. This feast that they're talking about is our Creator's 8 days that they're supposed to be there. The first day of the year is the Passover, and we know that our Creator designated what a day is, and that's from the sun setting night until the next time, all daylight, and then when the sun sets. That is one day, okay? And there's 8 days that they were told to do this, and this was at the second celebration of the Passover in the Sinai. Now, for the dedication, what dedication? Let me see here if, let's see, this would have been 22, and then we get it set up and go here. Okay, it's up on your screen. Feast of Dedication. It says a renewal of religious services. Well, there is no such thing as religion at that time. Religion is what pagans are described as. The Hebrews did not have a religion. You Christians don't have a religion. You have a belief that our Creator exists. It is stronger than a religion. It's a way of life. And if you're going to enter into heaven, you have to obey our Creator as your full trust that He exists. So the secular world calls it a religion. You should never call your belief a religion. It's a way of life for you. So this stuff here of them putting in dedication took place later in Jerusalem. There is nothing that is our Creator said to do. You can't change, you can't locate that. It was winter. Now that is absolutely not truthful. And yet here it is in the text. It's used as the word storm a couple times and winter 4 times. Well, we know that is not true. And we know that's not true because when we go through the plagues and understand they didn't happen one after another, but there is this I want to say, I think it's the 8th plague. I think it's the 8th plague. That the locusts come and eat up the sprouting green. So we're talking the sprouting green. In April is when they have a harvest for the wheat. So if it's in April that the wheat starts taking off and growing tall, this would be a good time to say that this is this is the timing of that plague. And then it would be that the next plague, the 9th, this one was when he had darkness over the land, and yet there was light uh, for the Hebrew people. So the thing here is then there is his 10th plague, and the only thing that everybody would record at and know would be the summer solstice. So it's not winter at any time here, okay? So the word winter is just not correct. He was walking by his house. I've described many times that a temple is described in the um, Hebrew text as a place where you put a false image of a false god and say, bow down and worship this god. His house is for meeting with him to be forgiven of your sin, and then you are allowed to stay in his nation and allowed to go into heaven when Jesus is given his kingdom in heaven. Now, it's got these other words here, and let's take a look at them while I'm getting rid of those. Boy, I don't get this, but let me see here. Let me break out. How come that didn't? Excuse me, I've got to go get this text again. Gonna copy that. Okay, now this is what they're saying, and this is just not true. Okay, this is um uh they're trying to put a place where Jesus is at here, and this see they don't even understand here. Um, let's see what it says under all. Peace to it, like see, this is talking about that it's actually the front porch of the temple, which we know that there's no such thing as a temple. When you're a Christian, you don't use pagan words to describe the house of our Creator. So this they're calling this the front porch of Solomon, and yet the house is actually inside a fenced-in yard, and nobody is to go in there except for the priest. Okay, now at their time, they were allowing this market to happen in the courtyard, but the object here is Jesus would have been respectful of the words because he wouldn't have disobeyed our Creator. So he has to be walking by his house outside the gate, okay, not inside or around the fenced in area. So these words just are not true. They did not, if it's part of our Creator's house for meeting with him, that's, you would not give Solomon any right on the inside. This is all about our Creator's meeting with the priests to for asking for the male who is bringing their offering to represent someone in his family sinned. Not obeying the 12 commandments is a sin. So they made a sin offering, or he made the sin offering. So here, those words just are not true. And our unbelievers gathered about around him. Now, these would have been not the Jews, because Jews are, like I said before, are those that don't believe Jesus at all. So I don't think they would have been gathering around them, but they're unbelievers. Let me just quickly see here. Okay, let me show you something here. Notice how it is used as Jewish, a Jew, Judee. Okay, now Judee, um, that is the territory here that they're describing in of the three regions at the time of Jesus. But actually, there was corruption back when Judah was the last kingdom. They would have been calling themselves Judeans because they were in the kingdom of Judea or Jordan, kingdom of, um, boy, that I just black out. The kingdom of Judah, and then they would have used it as Judeans that lived there, and those that went on to the female goddess or another god, they would have been the unbelievers of our Creator. So they would have been the ones that said there is all this, our belief of our Creator isn't true. Now you got to remember that's why our Creator sent them into Babylon and let them conquer them, and then he sent them back after he made himself known as the Creator who created the earth. And uh, get into Nebuchadnezzar, and in Daniel you'll find that Nebuchadnezzar was well aware who our Creator was. He pretty much made himself known just like he did when he was in Egypt. Now, all Jews that are not onto our Creator and don't believe in our Creator, I'm trying to say that the Jews are those that have this practice of actually um, living their life to this um, daughter of a foreign god. And I've showed that. That's a verse in Malachi 2:11. Um, Boy, I don't have that. I went and got so many things now that it's so new that, um, but anyways, this is about here where I'm saying it's the Jews and unbeliever. Sorry, I forgot to switch the screen over to here. So um, I'm correcting it by calling them unbelievers. Um, if you've been with me before, there'll be, and stick around, I will pop up more of these aids that I have to show you these verses that I'm talking about. But example, if I said the atheists today are those that are meditating to have a sex with a so-called female goddess, that's Malachi 2:11. They married the daughter of a foreign god. Well, not everyone does that, but they would have swayed away, and there would have been these other people that are unbelievers. They're kind of atheists, but they aren't the real atheists. That again, there's the secular world puts one word on many different things, but I'm trying not to do that. So it would have been just the unbelievers gathered around him, and they ask him, how long will you keep us in suspense? It's not in suspense, but uneasy. And if I put up the word suspense here, and you look over here, it's just suspense is used once, and yet it means breath, soul. So here you can see that this word is just being used incorrectly to begin with. So I'm saying it would be their uneasiness that Jesus is there telling them about him as a prophet is the way he's showing himself. So I have here, if you are our king, tell us how. Tell us how. So it means that the scribes and priests at their time were not teaching the truth about Jesus as this a son from Abraham that's going to become a king, to be also a king for the whole earth, that starts out as this everlasting covenant, which is actually promises, and then he talks about in David is then told about through his son's seed, how he will have a son that will become king, and he will be granted this kingdom in heaven. So the unbelievers have no idea what's really going on. So they surely would not know the word Christ. So I'm using the word king, and then tell us how. Not tell us plainly, but tell us how. So if I go and click on the word plainly and show you here, openly, openness, publicly, see, with boldness, confidence, I'm just using the word how. I'm pretty sure I'm more correct than they are when they say plainly. Now I'm going to stop the video here as a recording, and that chops up the text.